Good morning, everyone. My name is John Pyron, and I'll welcome you to an exciting webinar where we're going to share some ideas on how to use sales systems. So before I get started, let me ask you a couple of questions. Number one is, how many of you on the live webinar listening to the recording have sales systems in place right now? Second question, how many of you are achieving mind-blowing success from those systems? And then finally, how many of you are wondering if playing the lottery twice a week is a winning system? I know. Regardless of whatever system that you have in place, if you're not achieving mind-blowing success with that system, I'm going to share with you some stuff on today's webinar that you're going to be able to immediately benefit from. Not going to waste a lot of time about who I am and what I do, but you can hit all that information on the website. I think you came here today to get some content. So it's going to be raw, real, and just giving you the meat that you can take and use right away. Got a couple of goals for today. Number one, let's see here, is I'm going to share with you 3 ways that you can use to increase your sales results. Now, there's probably 25,000 ways to increase your sales results, but I'm going to focus on 3. In fact, one of the cool things about these 3 ways to increase sales results is you can apply these 3 principles to any area of your life. And if you do that, you're going to be able to increase and improve results in your relationships, in your business, in sales, in your friendships, in your finance, pretty much any area of your life. These 3 principles are time-tested and proven. Next is I'm going to share with you a referral system that I've used over and over and over again to generate as many referrals as I want. Recently, I went on vacation. I took off last Wednesday. And in my calendar, I always put in there any appointment that I can run where I'm going to sell something. I code it in red. And prior to going on vacation, I didn't have any red in my calendar for this week. But because I have a referral system and several other systems in place, it was one of those vacations where, I don't know if you're like me, but I have to leave all my technology at home if I actually want to go on vacation. So I left my cell phone, my laptop, everything at home and didn't check anything. And when I logged in on Sunday night to get ready for the week, I noticed that 10 appointments got booked while I was gone. And so I'm going to share with you a couple of really good strategies for developing those types of systems for yourself to where you can ultimately have the same result. Last thing we're going to talk about is about taking massive action. And so the 3 top goals for today is to give you at least 3 ideas that you can immediately benefit from, whether you and I ever talk or not. And so if I can accomplish these 3 goals today, I've hit my mission for this webinar, and I hope that it hits your mission for being on the webinar, as I think you came here today to actually get some stuff that you can use, not to be sold something. There's 3 questions that I always have in my mind whenever I hear somebody speak. They might be the same 3 questions that are going through your mind right now. Number 1 is, who is this guy, John Pyron? Number 2, why should I listen to him? And number 3, what's in it for me? And so let me see if I can answer those 3 questions in a short, quick story about myself. Number 1, I, like you, was born at a very early age in a small town known as Dallas, Texas, and moved and lived in a small town called Grand Prairie, Texas. In the early 80s, my mom moved us to California. Now, back in 1982, the town that we lived in was a very friendly, small town. You could walk to school. You can walk home from school, no problem. And so you would think if we're going to move to a different state, I don't know about you, but I have 2 kids. If I'm going to move my 2 kids to a different state, you would think that I would select a nice, safe, small town where my kids can walk to school, right? And I mean, that would be my thought process. But what ended up happening is we actually moved to this house right here. Now, not a big deal. I mean, it's not the Ritz, but it was a roof over our head. And my parents did every single thing that they can do to provide food, shelter, and clothing for me and my 3 sisters, and they did a great job at that. My dad was a tow truck driver. My mom was a waitress. And so the challenge with this house is where it's located. It's located on 69th Avenue and East 14th Street in Oakland, California. Now, I don't know if you know the geography or not, but Oakland, California is consistently rated in the top 5 most dangerous cities to live in. And back then it was no different. In fact, I went to this junior high school right here called Havens Court Junior High. Now, if we were to flip this picture 180 degrees the opposite way, you would see the 65th Avenue Village. Now, back in the day, there was a guy named Felix Mitchell, which is, if you look up on the internet, he's one of the most notorious gang leaders of his time. And I went to school with a lot of the people associated with that gang. And so what was interesting, the big positive thing about this, because I always like to take things and turn them into a positive. The biggest thing that happened for me personally is I discovered I had a natural talent I didn't know I had. See, life is a thin thread. You get to discover things about yourself by seemingly insurmountable obstacles. And one of the things I discovered is I learned that I could run very fast. And so, my mom had not quite gotten the memo that it's not safe to have your kid walk to and from school in East Oakland, California. And so I learned right away that I can run very fast. I actually joined the track team, got lots of first place trophies. I kid you not, I was pretty darn quick because I had a lot of practice. Fast forward. That was when I was 12 years old. So fast forward 17 and a half years old, I'm standing in the back of my father's mother's house. I'm living in a trailer because all of my family has moved out of town and I had chosen to be homeless instead of following them. And so things were so bad growing up that I chose to be homeless instead of staying with them. And so I don't know, the whole purpose of this story is this. I don't know what your background is. I don't know what you've gone through. But if you've ever gone through any challenges, if you've ever gone through, living in poverty, if you've ever gone through not knowing where the next dollar's coming from, maybe you're going through a challenge right now and you can't seem to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I want you to know that I've been there, and I definitely can relate to you. Now, fast forward September 24th, 2010. The Business Journal, the Sacramento Business Journal, which is the local business publication in the town that I live in, did a center page article on me and my company. From 2007 to 2009, we had a 63.9% growth rate. I went from a $10,000 loan from my mother-in-law to $1,037,000 in 3 years. The reason they did the center page article on me is because we had a little thing in 2008 called an economic crash. And while everybody else was going out of business, I managed to grow my business by 63.9%. Now, this particular article was done in my 4th year of business. So not only did I hit the growth in the first 3 years to $1 million, but I was able to maintain that because the previous year we were number 10 on this list. Now, why do I even share this with you? Because this webinar is not about me. It's about you. And it's simply this. I grew up in this home. I went to this school in one of the most dangerous cities in the country. At 17 and a half, I was homeless. My dad was a tow truck driver. My mom was a waitress. I did not come from a family of means. I did not come from a family that could teach me anything about building a business. But yet, 20-something years later, I have $1 million company. And you know what? And I dropped out of high school in the 12th grade on top of that. And so no matter where you've come from, no matter what your past has been, the whole purpose of me sharing this with you is that today is the first day of the rest of your life. And you can make a decision today to change it. You can make a decision today. You can find somebody like this guy. This guy right here is a guy named Dave Vanny. Dave Vanny, I met in December of 1990. He had not even yet known who I was at the time. Dave made $1 million that year in personal income. Dave lived in a 7,500 square foot home. Dave, like me, struggled as a kid growing up, and but he had a tremendous work ethic. And so when I finally personally connected with Dave in February of 1996 and started coaching with him, it made all the difference in the world. If we had time on this webinar, I would tell you how that came about, but that's a story for a different time. But it was a very thin thread because I met Dave through 2 other people, not directly. It's not like I bumped into Dave, but it's through a series of events that had those little things never happened, I would have never had this guy come into my life. Had this guy not come into my life and started coaching me and mentoring me and telling me, you know what, John, I don't care if your dad was a tow truck driver. I don't care if your mom was a waitress. I don't care if you grew up in a home in poverty and you guys were moving every year and a half because you got evicted because your parents couldn't pay the rent. I don't care where you come from. What only matters is where you're going. You can't drive the car forward if you're always looking in the rearview mirror. And I want you to honestly ask yourself this question right now. Have you been driving your car looking in the rearview mirror? Because if you have, I want you to draw a line today, and I want you to commit that you're never going to do that again, and you're going to develop a clean slate today. And I'm going to share with you some principles now that are going to help you do that. I worked with Dave personally as a one-on-one mentor and coach. He helped me build $3 million companies. The last one you just saw, I sold that company last year in June. And that's when I started working with this coach, a guy named Eric Lofholm. Eric Lofholm was personally trained and coached by Tony Robbins, who was personally trained and coached by Jim Rohn. And in working with Eric, I've learned how to not only speak at a very high level. I've done about 185 front-of-the-room talks representing Eric Lofholm's brand. I've done over 1,000 one-on-one coaching sessions with business owners all over the world. Currently, I lead a mastermind team of 122 people in 6 different countries. And so the reason you should listen to me on this call is I know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to give you some information, some ideas today on this webinar. They're going to help you make money. This probably will be the best webinar you've been on all year because I'm not going to waste our time trying to sell you anything. At the very end of our talk today, yeah, I'm going to offer up a workshop that I have coming up. But again, the workshop is pennies compared to the value that you're going to get from it. But most of the time spent on today is going to be on golden nugget after golden nugget after golden nugget. You will walk away from this webinar with an action plan, and you'll be able to implement it today. Working with Eric has allowed me to build a national and actually international coaching practice. Now I have a client in Germany, I have a client in Japan, I have a client in the Netherlands. And so all things are possible when you take action. And so I want you to relax at this point. I want you to open up your mind. I want you to whip out your notepad and your sheet of paper, because I'm going to go fast now and I'm going to give you some information that you can implement today. So the ideas I'm going to share with you, you're going to be able to take action on. At the very end of this webinar, I'm going to invite you to a workshop that I'm hosting on July 18th. This workshop is going to give you a marketing touch system that you can implement so you never have to make another cold call in your life. I learned this. I was forced to invent this back in 2003 when I went to work for a company, and the lady was dogmatic about throwing mud up on the wall. Isn't that what it feels like from time to time when you're making a cold call? It feels like you're throwing mud up on the wall, and hopefully some of it sticks. The reason I invented this system is because, you know what? I hate throwing mud up on the wall. I have no issues with working my butt off, but I want to have a proven system to do it so I can get a good result. And I invented a marketing touch system that I've used in 3 different companies to build them into the millions and millions of dollars. All 3 companies today are stronger and better and more successful than the day that I sold my interest in them. The 4th company I'm building right now, I've used this exact same system in a whole different industry, and it's creating millions of dollars again. I have 29 business coaching clients spread across the world, and over 20 of them are implementing these systems and getting the same result, and they're in all different industries. So regardless of what industry you're in, you'll want to pay attention with what I'm about to share with you right now. I want you to be open to a breakthrough in your mindset that can create a permanent change in the way that you approach business and sales. There are basically 3 ways to increase your sales results. Number 1 is the inner game. It's the mental mindset around selling. Now, notice I didn't put 3 ways to increase sales results, but this is a conversation about sales. You can apply what I'm about to share with you to any area of your life, and you will get the same result. Real quick side note, I want you to learn something real quick. Principles are timeless, meaning that once you discover a principle will work over and over and over again. Gravity is a principle. If you jump off of a roof, you're going to hit the ground. Honesty is a principle. If you're honest with somebody, you have a high chance of developing a long-term relationship with that person. When you want to increase any results in your life, the inner game will always work every time, every day of the week, and twice on Sunday. And so if you have the proper mindset around sales, the proper mindset around finance, the proper mindset about physical activity, and any other area of your life you want to apply this to, you have a great opportunity to increase your results. Next is the outer game. And the outer game is the systems that we use. It's the time management systems. It's the goal-setting systems. It's the database. It's the way you track your finances and keep your finances. It's the systems that you use to manage those things. When I went on vacation, I had no red in my calendar, and I came back with 10 appointments in my calendar. It's because of the systems that I have in place that made that happen. So we're going to talk about the outer game. Lastly, you can have the best mindset on the planet. You can be the most positive person in the world. And you can have the best systems in place. I mean, they can work, hands down. But if you can't get your butt to take action on a daily basis, nothing else matters. I was on a coaching call this morning, and a client of mine was talking about how unhappy he was with his results. And I said, okay, Let me ask you a question. Over the last week, over the last 2 weeks, how many phone calls have you made to set up an appointment? How many conversations did you get into? How many appointments did you set? How many appointments did you run? And what were your sales results? And after taking down those numbers, I said, well, I can see why you're not happy. I wouldn't be happy either. And if you can't get yourself to take action and make a phone call or reach out to somebody to set an appointment, guess what? You got nothing to sell. You got nobody to sell to, and you're not going to be happy with your results. So we're going to talk about how you can take action on a daily basis. At the end of this webinar, there should be no excuse for poor results ever again in your life. And if there are, it's your fault. Okay? And so what I do to guarantee my results is I continue to meet with Dave Vanny, 5:30 p.m. on Thursday night, and I continue to hold myself accountable because it forces me to perform at a higher level and take action. And we're going to talk about how you can do that and set yourself up for success. See, it's all about taking action. But let's talk about mindset first. And one of the mindsets of a champion is that there's always room to grow. I mean, ask yourself this question. Do you believe that you have potential inside of you right now to perform at a higher level than the level you've been performing at? Be honest with yourself. Of course you do. All of us do. I do. One of my favorite stories about mindset and always wanting to improve is about the great Michael Jordan. And one of the things that made Michael Jordan so great wasn't the fact that he was born as an exceptionally talented athlete, which is true. But one of the things that made Michael Jordan so great was his constant desire to always want to get better. And one of the true stories about Michael Jordan is every single summer, every single off season, he would hire the best trainer he could find. He would hire the best coach that he can find. And he would pick one aspect of his game, and that's all he would work on the entire off season. So one summer he would work on his left hand, and that's all he would do the entire summer is work on his left hand. The next off season, again, he would find the best coaches he can find. He would find the best trainers he can find. Except this time he picked his strength training. And that's all he did the entire summer is focus on his strength training. And it was that discipline, it was that desire to always get better that made Michael Jordan great. But hey, that's Michael Jordan. What about you? What about you and I? The same principle applies to us. If somebody like Michael Jordan, who is at the top of his game, has to work with a coach or a trainer, then so do we. And if you're not working with a coach or trainer, go find one. That should be your number one action item off this webinar. Forget my workshop. Forget anything else I'm going to tell you today on this workshop. If you take that one action item, it will make all the difference in your life. What's your one? What is the one thing that you know you need to work on right now that you've been putting off? What's the one thing that you need to work on right now to increase your results? I'll tell you what my one thing is. I went to bed last night thinking about this. I woke up this morning thinking about this, and I'm like, you know what? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being a perfection and 1 being, I have no, I'm an amateur. I had to be honest with myself, and I said, hey, you know what? over the last 30 days, I've been rating about a 5 when it comes to being a husband. You know, I'm like, my God, man, I need to improve in that area, and I need to make it a priority. And so thank God I've got other men that I can reach out to, because in holding myself accountable, if I want to improve in this area, I've got to develop the right mindset around it, right? I've got to admit that I need help in that area. I've got to admit that I need to do work. And so I'm going to spend the next off season, which is the next 3 months, laser focusing on how I can change my attitude towards my wife. See, we all have room to grow, not just in sales, but in every area of our life. But it's hard to focus on 10 different things and get good at it. So what is the one thing that you can focus on that will give you the best return, and go find somebody to mentor you and coach you in that and do the work. This is a great book right here. It's one of the best books I've ever picked up about focus and discipline and really narrowing down what your personal one thing is. It's by a guy named Gary Keller, who is the founder of Keller Williams Real Estate, one of the top real estate companies in the world. And I was just sitting down with my buddy Jesse Garcia yesterday, and he's the one that introduced me to this book. And we had a good long dialogue about it, and I'm like, man, I'm going to go back and read this thing over and over and over again, because it helps you get focused on the important things in your life. And so go out and get this book. Go up to Amazon or wherever and get this book. Make that your second action item. Okay? Aside from going out and finding a mentor or coach to work with, go buy this book. It'll make a big difference in your life. So we talked about the inner game. Let's talk about the outer game. And one of my favorite topics to talk about, one of my favorite strategies around the outer game, is a strategy called baseline strategy. See, everybody listening to this webinar or listening to the recording has a baseline in terms of the results you're producing. One of the ways that we tend to measure things as human beings is in terms of income earned. And so let's take that as our example here today, and let's say, okay, you're making $5,000 a month in income. Well, your baseline would be $5,000. Your baseline is also every single thing that you did to earn the $5,000. Your goal setting, your time management skills, the number of phone calls you make, the number of appointments that you run, the number of orders that you process, your follow-up, it's everything. And the strategy is this. Do this on a regular basis. Sit down and draw out your baseline. Okay, here's the result that I got. Here's everything that I did to make that happen. And then the strategy is this. Continue to do what you've been doing because you're getting a predictable result. And then what you want to do, working with your new coach that you're going to go get, you apply the following components. Number one, you pick something that you can add to your baseline. Not 25 things. Focus on one thing. What can you add to your baseline right now that you're not currently doing, but if you added it, would produce a better result? Maybe it's a follow-up system. Maybe it's a referral system. Maybe it's a way of setting appointments. Maybe it's a new networking event. Ask yourself right now, because our brains are designed to answer any question that we ask it. So ask yourself the question right now. What is one thing I can add to my baseline that I'm not doing right now that if I added it would produce a better result? And whatever comes to your mind right now, go ahead and write it down. Don't think about it. There's something that's going to come to your mind when you ask that question. I want you to write it down right now. And then work with somebody who knows how to implement that and have them help you implement it, and then take action on it. Next, you can subtract something that's not working. So if your baseline is 5,000 and you did a lot of activities to make the 5,000 in the month of June, and you go back and you go through your baseline and you realize, hey, this one thing is not working. Subtract it. Or you can modify something and make it better. Give you an example. One of my clients, a guy named John Ryan. John's a trainer out of Greensboro, North Carolina. He started coaching with me about 3 months ago. And at the time, he didn't have a marketing touch system in place. He didn't have a lot of systems in place that he needed to have in place to produce a predictable result. So I started working with John, and we implemented about 10 different things. We added 10 different things to his baseline. One of them was a marketing touch system where we found several things that he can send out to his prospects that added value to their life without ever having to talk to him. And we came up with a system for that and a schedule, and we sent that out. The other thing is we made some improvements to his website. The other thing we did is we worked on his scripts, and we improved his sales scripts and what he needs to say when he's calling and setting an appointment. How he needs to close. We improved his closing script. And we did a lot of other things, but the bottom line is this. Within 30 days, John had his very first coaching client. Then he had another one. Then he ran a group presentation. And he's having a tremendous amount of success right now because we did a baseline strategy on him, and we consistently do it, and we add new things to his baseline. So here's the magic move. This one principle is going to serve you for the rest of your life, and that is to be consistent with this strategy. Every single month, here's what I want you to do for the rest of your life, and you can do this with every area of your life. On the last day of every month, when your day is done and completed, I want you to set up a 2-hour appointment with yourself. Put it as a reoccurring appointment in your calendar on the last day of every month. This will be the best 2 hours you ever spend throughout the month. You sit down and you run this baseline strategy on your life, not just in sales, but sit down and say, okay, if your spiritual life is important to you, what was my baseline there? Finance, family, job, career, business, health, friendships. You apply this strategy to every area of your life, and you ask yourself honestly, what were my results? And then you honestly look at it, each one of those areas, and go, okay, what's one thing I can add to each of these important areas so in the month of July I can get a better result? See, we're 9 days into July, and it's not too late to do this. You can do this today, and I would highly recommend you do it. One of the things that you can also do is you can go up to Facebook, and you can join the Clean Slate Club for free. It's a Facebook group that I created back in April because since 1992 I've been sitting down the last day of every month for 2 hours running a baseline. And I thought, man, if I'm going to do this anyways, I might as well do it with a group of people and do it together and invite some cool speakers to come in. And so we can do a motivational talk and celebrate the month that we just completed, and then give people an hour afterwards to draw out their plan for the next month. And so it's still a 2-hour appointment. It's just the first hour is a motivational call, a celebration, if you will. There is no selling allowed in this group. Okay?
I have it completely locked down. There's over 800 members in this group, and you are more than welcome to join it. Go up to Facebook, in capital letters, type Clean Slate Club, and request to become a member, and I'll approve you. And the one rule is you're not allowed to promote anything in there. You're only allowed to add value for free. And we're all geared towards, we do a call on the last, at 5 o'clock on the last day of every month. It doesn't matter even if it's Sunday. We do it for an hour. There's always 2 really good, high-quality speakers. My instruction to you is go join it today and go in there and listen to the recording of the last 3 calls. They're very, very powerful, especially this last one. We had the top sales trainer in the world, a guy named Ben Gay III, on that call. We had one of the top masterminds as it relates to discipline and mindset, a guy named J.P. Maroney, both of them multi-millionaires, sharing their best things on that call. Nobody's allowed to sell anything. So go there and join that. Next, you can add a referral system to your baseline. And I'm going to go through this quickly because our time's getting short. But basically, I have a referral system that my mentor, Eric Lofholm, taught me, that he's used over the last 15,000 years. He's used over the last 15 years to generate over 12,000 referrals. And it's so simple, it's insane. And when I started actually using this system, now the challenge I have too many referrals. I had to hire my assistant, Mark Kwasny, which some of you have heard from, in order to free up my time to be able to deal with the referrals. And I hope that you have the same problem. And so here's the components of it. Number one is you hand out a form. And my form looks like this. I have a place for them to put their name, their company name, memory joggers, 4 slots for referrals, and I'll explain why I got 4 slots there, not 2, not 1, and then my phone number and information at the bottom. And so I hand out the form and I tell them, hey, keep a copy of this form because I'm going to do what I'm doing right now for the next 30 years. So whether you give this form back to me today, tomorrow, a year from now, I mean, you can give me one of these every day and there's going to be a benefit for you. Okay, so number one, hand out a form. If you want a copy of this form, the soft copy so you can edit it and customize it to you, all you got to do is send me an email, and I'll have the information at the end of the webinar today, but send me an email at jpyron@johnpyron.com. I will send you the full soft copy and the word-for-word script on how to use this. The script is simply this. You educate the client. So I say, Mr. If you and I were talking right now, I'd say, okay, Mr. Prospect, as you know, I build my company with referrals. My focus is on any sales manager that has a sales team of 6 or more, or a business owner who really wants to make a lot of money out of his business but not have his business own him. When you think of prospects for me, think of people, and then here's what you do. The second thing, you educate them. So when you think of a referral for me, think of somebody in real estate, mortgage, MLM, car dealerships, solar, insurance, maybe prospects that you have, sales teams that you know, salespeople, clients, friends, past managers. Those are the types of people that are prospects for me. Next, what you want to do is you want to offer an incentive for them to give you a referral. What I always offer is I say, okay, the reason there's 4 slots on here, Mr. Prospect, or Mr. Client, or Mr. or Mrs. Client. When I say Mr., I mean both. Okay, I understand we live in a politically correct world right now, and so I'm being both sexist and not being sexist here. Okay, and that's a joke, by the way. So on the where the reason there's 4 things is each one of those boxes is worth $25. And so what I tell my prospect or client is I said, hey, for the next 30 years, anytime you want $100, anytime you want a $100 bill, you simply fill out 4 slots in there, and when they check out as a qualified referral, whether they do business with me or not, okay, is irrelevant. I will send you a crisp $100 bill. And it's not going to be, let me wait for a month. I will do it the same day. And it applies to anybody on the webinar right now.
It applies to anybody listening to the recording. If you send me 4 names of either a sales manager that has a sales team of 6 or more, or a business owner who's looking to build a profitable business, or somebody wanting to start a business, every 4 that you send me for the rest of your life and my life, I'll send you a $100 bill. So keep that in mind. You always have a source of income right now, and that is referring me a lead. So the last thing you got to do is ask. And so I'm going to ask you right now, who do you know that would be a fit for me? Print out the form or ask me for the form and email it to me over and over and over again, and I'll continue to pay you. Okay? So the key is to ask. Take this system and apply it to your business, no matter if you're an attorney, a flower shop, a landscape person, a own a technology company. This system works, and it works over and over and over again. Okay? Next, we talked about the inner game, talked about the outer game. Now let's talk about taking action. And the most important thing about taking action is to be repeatable. It's to be repeatable. One of my favorite stories about being repeatable is about the great Jerry Rice, arguably one of the best wide receivers ever to play the game. And one of the things that made Jerry Rice stand out so much is he was dogmatic about being repeatable with the right things. He practiced his route over and over and over and over again, and they dominated when he was on the 49ers team. In fact, the very first Super Bowl they won with Steve Young, Steve Young tells a story like this. It's 3 days after the Super Bowl. They just won the championship. Steve Young went to the practice facility to get something out of his locker. He noticed Jerry Rice out there practicing and running the routes, getting ready for next year. Now think about this. The Super Bowl's over. They are the world champions. And instead of Jerry Rice doing what everybody else was doing, which is flying to Hawaii for the Pro Bowl, because Jerry Rice was, elected to the Pro Bowl that year. No, instead of doing that, he's back practicing, getting ready for the next year. See, all you and I can take the same principle and apply it to our lives. We don't need a coach to tell us this. If you think about your skill, what it is that you do. If you just focused on mastering it, forget somebody telling you what to do. Find a big enough dream that's going to motivate you and focus on getting good. And so there's ways to be repeatable in sales. Number 1 is consistently make marketing touches. And at this workshop I'm doing next Friday, I'm going to share a step-by-step process on how to create your very own personalized marketing touch system. Everybody that walks away from that workshop is going to have a customized workshop, a customized marketing touch system for themselves. Next is you got to be repeatable about running appointments. And in order to run appointments, you've got to make contacts with people to set up appointments. Next is you got to close sales. So you got to run appointments where you can ask for the sale and you close sales. And lastly, you got to follow up. See, none of this other stuff matters if you can't be repeatable with the basics. Too many salespeople and business owners major in the minors when they should be majoring in the majors. And that's what Jerry Rice did. He focused on the things that would give him the most return. And if you're in any type of sales position or any type of business capacity, if you're not repeatable with these 4 things, you're not going to have a great result. The key is consistency. Remember this story? The tortoise and the hare? Who wins the race? The turtle, right? Why? Because the turtle focused on consistency over time, slow and steady. The rabbit sprinted for a very short period of time. I run across salespeople all the time, and even business owners, and it's boggling to my mind. Okay, the only reason it's boggling to my mind is because I suffered that same attitude for years, and I got sick and tired of being frustrated with my results, and I finally submitted my ego and listened to Dave when Dave said, you know what, John? It's not about what you do this week. It's not about what you do this month. It's not even about what you do for 3 or 6 months. You do what I'm telling you to do consistently for a year, and then you can come and talk to me about whether it works or not. And so if you're not getting the results that you want right now, you focus on these 4 things, do it for a solid year, then come back to me and tell me that, John, you're screwed up in the head. You don't know what you're talking about. But I'm telling you right now, if you want to get results, you've got to be slow and steady, consistent. Okay? And one of the ways that you can be consistent is by developing a marketing touch system for yourself. And so that leads me into talking about our workshop that we have going on next Friday. The cost for the workshop is $995. However, because it's a webinar workshop, I'm going to drop the price significantly to make it available to anybody who really wants to make a result. If you never want to make a phone call ever again, that is a cold call, this workshop is for you. I don't make cold calls. None of my clients make cold calls. And the ones that do, it's their fault. Because this system right here will prevent you from ever having to make a cold call ever again for the rest of your life. And it works. It's worked for me for over 11 years since I invented it. And it continues to work. It's a 3-hour workshop from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. next Friday. I'm going to help you identify your perfect prospect. See, the reason people don't get a result is because they're going after a prospect that's not a perfect fit. And so we're going to go through a process to help you walk away from the workshop knowing exactly who the fish are that you need to be going after and exactly where and what lake they swim in. Next is we're going to go through a process and help you script out your system. You're going to walk away from the workshop with your scripts done. And I'm going to walk you through a process on how to do it. Next is I'm going to teach you how to leverage video. Video is the hottest thing going in marketing right now. Because we live in an ADD society, a lot of people don't want to read a long, drawn-out email. I don't do that. I get so many different emails. If you don't capture me in the first paragraph, I'm done. But I'll watch a video because it's getting to the point. And I'm going to show you how to create your own video. You're going to walk away from the workshop having your video done. And then next, I'm going to show you how to leverage a LinkedIn lead generation system that I taught all of my clients, and they're getting as many leads as they want. I'm going to share probably 5 other lead generation systems in this workshop that you're going to be able to implement to get a result. Lastly, I'm going to provide you step-by-step instruction on how to do it. The reason it's 3 hours is because I want you walking away from the workshop being able to implement it come Monday morning. I don't want this being dragged out for months. Right? We're going to go through the work. We're going to do it in a workshop type setting. It's a virtual workshop. Okay, all done online, and you're going to be able to walk away with a system that you can implement and benefit from for the rest of your life. What are you going to learn in the workshop? Number one, you're going to learn a proven system that I use every single day. I'm just noticing that you guys are not seeing my screen. Okay, so there we go. You're going to learn a proven system. Okay, next you're going to learn how to customize your own. And next you're going to be able to implement it now, right now. And lastly, you're going to create warm leads on tap. And then you're going to be able to set unlimited appointments. Now, I have a bonus if you sign up today. Or if you're listening to the recording, this is on the honor system.
The first bonus is I'm going to give you a one-on-one coaching session. And I'm not putting a time limit on this. Okay? What this means is once you're done with the workshop and you've got your system and you think you're ready to implement it, you and I are going to get on the phone, we'll do some screen sharing, and you're going to walk me through your system, and I'm going to give you one-on-one coaching to make sure the system is optimized for the best results. And after that session, you're going to be able to implement and get a very predictable result. Now, before I get to the irresistible offer, I'm going to give you a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you go through the workshop, you implement, you create the system, you go through the one-on-one coaching session with me, and you implement it consistently for 30 days, if you don't get appointments off this system, I will give you a full refund. And so the irresistible offer I have for you today, if you sign up today or you're listening to the recording, right, this is on the honor system, $199 one-time fee. If you register in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to add you to the mastermind call that I do every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Pacific time. Currently, there are 80 members from all over the world, just like you, building their business, generating sales from all walks of life. It's 30 minutes of teaching one-on-one on how to create more sales. We pick one topic. I open up the call for the last half hour, and there's consistently 25, 35 people on the live call. We mastermind and we brainstorm on the best ideas we can around that one idea. It's recorded, so if you can't be on the live call, you can go back and listen to it as many times as you want. Next, how do you register? Well, call me, 916-765-2596. Or you can send me an email at jpyron@johnpyron.com. jpyron@johnpyron.com. Now, here, let me close with this. Whether you sign up for this workshop or not, you pay either way. Price of the workshop, $199. And you're going to get a system that's going to benefit you for the rest of your business life, and it's going to produce a very predictable result regardless of what happens in the economy. If you remember early on, I built a company from a $10,000 loan for my mother-in-law to $1 million in 3 years during a crashed economy. I did it using this marketing touch system. I did it while all my competitors were folding their doors and going out of business. I was taking their clients. It works in an up economy. It works in a down economy. It works today. It worked yesterday, and it'll work tomorrow, and it will work for you. There's a cost for not signing up for the workshop, and that could be thousands and thousands of dollars in missed opportunity for the rest of your life and consistent frustration of not being able to set up as many appointments as you want. I want to congratulate you for taking the time to be on this webinar today or listening to the recording. Reach out to me anytime. If you go to my website, jpyron@johnpyron.com, you have an opportunity to access my calendar and schedule a time to talk with me. I had a great time today, and I hope you got a lot of value. Have a great day and make it a great week. Talk to you soon. Take care.